You look at the sign, $4.18. In some of your neighborhoods, it's already north of $5. That isn't a bad week on Wall Street. That is the price of a blockade. That is the Hormuz Tax. While the mainstream news is busy arguing about the why, we're going to audit the how. Because what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz right now isn't just a military standoff. It's a stress test for the entire global supply chain, and it's failing. A few hours ago, Donald Trump hit post. He claimed Iran is in a state of collapse. He said they reached out, desperate to open the strait, because their leadership is sorting through a mess they can't control. But if they're collapsing, why are gas prices still climbing? If they're begging for a deal, why is the most important waterway on Earth still a ghost town? Today, we're auditing the most important 21 miles of water on the planet. We're looking at the mines in the water, the fractured leadership in Tehran, and the proposal that just hit the White House desk that the U.S. seems unlikely to accept. Let's look at the map, the Strait of Hormuz. At its narrowest, it's 21 miles wide. That's it. That's the gap between global stability and a complete blackout. 20% of the world's seaborne oil goes through this needle. Another 20% of global LNG. It's the jugular vein of the global economy. If you pinch it, the world stops breathing. Ship traffic through the strait is down to roughly 5% of normal levels. Thousands of ships are sitting in the Gulf like a massive floating parking lot, waiting for a safe passage that doesn't exist. Why can't they just sail through? Because of the hidden wall. Iran hasn't just closed the strait with ships. They've seeded it with mines. The U.S. Navy is sitting right outside the mouth of the strait and has begun mine clearance operations inside it. But here's the problem. According to one report, Iran lost track of some of the mines it planted. It can't fully open the strait even if it wanted to. Iran has a blockade it can't undo. We have a minefield with no map. And you have the $4.18 gas receipt. Here's where the audit gets complicated. Trump's post says Iran is collapsing financially, losing $500 million a day from the naval blockade on their ports. He's framing it as total pressure working. And there's something to that. The blockade is squeezing them hard. But look at the wording again. He says Iran wants to open the strait while they figure out their leadership situation. Leadership situation is not an exaggeration. We need to talk about what's actually happening in Tehran. On February 28th, the U.S. and Israel struck Iran. Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was killed in that initial strike. Iran moved quickly and appointed his son Mojtaba Khamenei as his successor. But fast doesn't mean stable. Secretary of State Marco Rubio went on Fox News and said it himself. Iran's leadership is deeply fractured. A new, untested leader inheriting a war, a collapsing economy, and a minefield he can't fully control. That's not a government. That's a pressure cooker with a broken valve. And those mines in the water? If there's no clear chain of command, there's no one to give the disarm order. That's not a victory. That's the most dangerous part of this whole situation. Yesterday, Tehran submitted a proposal to the White House. They want to open the strait. They want the oil to flow again. In exchange, they want the U.S. to lift the naval blockade on their ports so they can get food, medicine, and cash back into the country. Nuclear discussions? Those get pushed to later. It looks like a win-win on paper. The strait opens, gas prices drop, the humanitarian crisis slows down. Rubio called the proposal better than what we thought they were going to submit. That sounds like progress. It isn't. Because in the same breath, Rubio made clear the core problem hasn't moved an inch. The U.S. is not going to lift the blockade and walk away from Iran's nuclear program. That's the whole reason this war started. His words. That fundamental issue still has to be confronted. We can't let them get away with it. So the proposal says, open the water now, talk about the nukes later. The U.S. position is, we're not giving up the only leverage we have before the main problem is resolved. We're at a deadlock. The White House is split. One side wants to pull gas prices down before the summer travel season and the midterms. The other side wants to finish what they started. And while they work that out, the world keeps hitting a hard limit. The economic picture is getting ugly fast. Brent crude closed above $108 a barrel on Monday. That's roughly 50% higher than when this war started in February. The SPR is at historically low levels. The buffer we used in 2022 isn't there this time. The longer the Strait stays closed, the deeper this goes. This isn't a patch situation. There's no backup plan for global energy shipping. We built the entire system on the assumption that a 21-mile strip of water would always be open. And now, the software is throwing a fatal error. So where do we land? Trump says they're collapsing. Rubio says the deal doesn't go far enough. The world is watching oil top $108, and you're just trying to figure out how to afford the drive to work tomorrow. Here is the audit you need to remember. Whether Iran stabilizes or fractures further, the fact that a single waterway and a handful of mines can dictate the price of your groceries is the real failure. Same thing I told you about the supply chains in 2022. They shipped a global economy that wasn't ready, they knew it was fragile, they knew it had bugs, and they bet that you'd absorb the cost when it broke. Well, it's breaking. I want to know what you're seeing at your local station today. Are you seeing $4, $5? Are you seeing out-of-service bags on the pumps? Drop it in the comments. Let's track the Hormuz Tax together. Because if we're all being forced to beta test this new world, we might as well share the data. I'm done paying for a system that never had a backup plan. Are you?